as you guys know, some days ago, we talked about the new DC game, you know, the DC card game. And we had some doubts about the upgrading system. If you guys remember, some cards had like a badge on the top left corner that it was bronze, silver, or gold, and we didn't know what that meant. So we were trying to think about, well, what can this mean? Because I was hoping that it wasn't like Clash Royale, where you have to have multiple copies of a card or something like that, or a currency or whatever, to upgrade the card outside of the game, and then you get a better card inside of the game. Apparently, that is not the case, and this video explains what it really is. Again, we are reacting here to Willow. He is the same dude that made the previous two videos that we watched, and he told me that it isn't like Clash Royale, and in this video he explains how it is like in reality. So let's watch it so we know how it is. And by the way, that is great news that it isn't like Clash Royale, so another bullshit thing for which to not worry about, you know. So that is cool. Let's see what Willow has to say in here and learn how this shit is really. Yo, Wild the Great, my dude, how you doing, brother? How are you doing, dude?
Ever since I learned what this badge system meant for DC Dual Force cards, I've been dreading making this video because honestly, it's not exactly the easiest system to explain unless you, the listener, have played a certain type of card game. I'm gonna try my absolute best. I apologize if this isn't explained in the best way possible. We'll see how I go. Let me know how I do. So, it's an upgrade system, obviously. Each card has 3 levels, level 1, level 2, and level 3, although in this case, it's actually bronze, silver, and gold. This helps explain why the stats on a card like Dr. Fate are so much better than, say, a card like Punchline. Punchline is a bronze card or a level 1 card, and Dr. Fate is a gold card or a level 3 card. Using some context clues, you can see.
So that explains in a manner why she's 3-3 in here and he's 7-10. I imagine the stats also upgrade when the card upgrades, because previously we said, wow, Dr. Fate is really strong at 7-10. He just, with one hit, he just takes half of a leader health, you know. But well, he is upgraded to gold in here. So normally a bronze card is 3, well, around 3, you know.
See the progression that cards might have. Now, we haven't seen an example of a bronze card and that same card being a silver card, or a silver card and that same card being a gold card just yet, because we've only seen 11 cards from DC Dual Force, so we don't know what types of jumps to expect from level ups. Is a card going to get on average +3/+3?
For example, this card I said in the other video, because I don't know how the badge system works, that this to the Batcave is really strong. If you play this shit starting out the game, draw an additional card each turn, this is really strong, right? But if you have to upgrade it to get there, maybe you don't have that ability starting out, and maybe it isn't that strong, you know. So we have to see how this works in reality.
Are their effects going to change dramatically? We don't know, but we can imagine what that progression might look like.
He's doing it right here. Check it out. Your leader heals 3, then you get draw a card, and then you get draw an additional card each turn. This is of course a speculation, but he's thinking the same. He has the same train of thought that I was thinking right now, you know.
Keep in mind, nothing has been confirmed yet, but the best educated guess is that this upgrade system is very similar to, say, something like Soulforge or Soulforge Fusion. Without explaining too much,
I don't know that game. I have never played it, so let's see. Let's hope he explains it, you know.
The history, which quite frankly isn't particularly important for this video, but also it's history that I don't fully understand, so me explaining it would just be a little bit silly. In DC Dual Force, we know that we're going to be able to play 2 cards each turn. Now, what I just said is 100% confirmed from the GameSpot article interview that happened forever ago, but what I'm going to say for the rest of this video is almost entirely speculation based on the fact that the 2 games share so much connective tissue, the 2 games being Soulforge and DC Dual Force. At the end of each turn, you'll then take the cards you didn't use and put them into your discard pile. Then, you draw a new hand of 5 cards.
Brother, they even did this mini game. Where do you do this? In tabletop games? Or on an app like that. This is fucking cool, brother. This is cool. Willow is putting a lot of effort into this thing, brother.
This means each turn you'll be looking at your 5 available options, choosing which 2 are the most applicable for the situation, and playing those 2. Let's run through 2 examples, one with actions and one with minions, just so that we're on the same page about how both of them work. When you play an action card, the first copy of it will be removed from the game. There's no discard pile for this thing, it will just be removed. But an upgraded version of that card will be created, and then that version of the card will be put into your discard pile. The exact same process happens with a minion. If I play a minion onto the board, immediately an upgraded version of that card is generated and put into my discard pile. I don't have to wait until the minion's destroyed. As soon as I play the minion, a upgraded version of the card is shuffled into my discard pile.
So okay, if you draw 5 cards, let's think about this. Because in the last video I uploaded reacting to Willow, he commented on my video because I asked on the video how many cards did a deck have, and he said that a deck has 40 cards, you know. So if a deck has 40 cards, you only need 4 turns to go through your whole deck, right? If we are taking into consideration what he's saying here, that you draw 5 cards, at the end of the turn, the 5 cards go to the discard pile, you draw 5 more, and when you go through your whole deck, now your discard pile goes into your deck, right? And so you need 4 turns for the whole thing to go through. So if you play a bronze card on the first turn, you will get the silver card potentially starting on the 5th turn or something like that, unless there are ways of accelerating this process.
From there, you're probably thinking, how do I get access to my...
But it is cool that you go through the whole deck quickly, right? Because 5 cards discard, 5 cards discard, you go through the whole deck really quickly. So you interact a lot with your deck, you know. That is cool, because in a game like Hearthstone, for example, you only draw 1 card and you have to wait, and maybe the card that you want is on the bottom of the deck, so you don't interact with your whole deck every game. In this game, you interact with your whole deck each game because you are drawing and discarding your whole deck really quickly, and I believe that is cool, brother. That is cool.
My discard pile. Well, assuming that it works the same way it does in SoulForge, which it doesn't necessarily have to, but assuming it does, after 3 turns, what is referred to as a cycle in SoulForge, your discard pile, including those upgraded cards, are shuffled into your deck, meaning you're...
Well, forget everything I said. It's just 3 turns. Every 3rd turn, this happens. I was thinking that the thing cycles, but no. After 3 turns, your discard pile is shuffled into your actual deck. Okay.
Next hand can include some of those upgraded cards. Everything I just said is true for SoulForge, but the details might be a bit different when it comes to DC Dual Force. Okay. In fact, what we currently know about DC Dual Force does...
Yes, when we talk about this stuff about the game, we know that everything could change, that it isn't exactly like that, probably. We just have this in the back of our mind. We are just discussing stuff here, like how it could be, but we don't know anything 100% for sure. So it is not like we have to say this every time, because people should know this by now.
In fact, what we currently know about DC Dual Force does differ quite a bit from its SoulForge counterpart, though they definitely occupy a similar space. For example, in SoulForge you have 5 lanes. There is no grid, but in DC Dual Force we do have a 3x2 grid. SoulForge has a simple health pool and no leaders, though that did change in SoulForge Fusion, while DC Dual Force does have leaders, and those leaders actually start in play on a 3x2 grid. All of that is to say that I highly doubt the upgrade system is going to be 1-to-1 from what we have in SoulForge. So while it's...
I have to say that I prefer the DC Dual Force grid and the leader system. I prefer it. It is cooler, brother.
It's valuable to look at SoulForge and acquire the information that we know when we play a card, it gets upgraded. The specific details that we just went over is probably not exactly what the system's going to be like. The core concept will be there. You'll play a card, that card will be upgraded, but there's a ton of different ways you can update that core system or adapt that core system into a new game. Now, personally, I think you could actually just entirely remove the discard pile concept. Instead of discarding the cards that you don't use at the end of your turn, you could instead shuffle them directly back into the deck. And in this case, instead of sending quote-unquote upgraded cards to the discard piles, the other copies of that card would just be automatically upgraded. This comes with the downside of artificially creating a deck building restriction. The deck building restriction you're creating is that if the player wants access to the gold version of a card, they're going to need to run 3 copies of that card. You could also just have a copy of the upgraded card shuffle directly into the deck. So if you had 3 copies of a card and you played one, you would end up with 3 copies in the deck because you're upgrading that card, you're creating a copy of it, and you're putting it back into the deck. That bypasses the problem we just talked about, but it creates a potentially worse problem, which is that it creates a negative feedback loop. You potentially create an environment where a lot of games come down to quote-unquote high rolling. You don't want the upgrade system to dramatically impact in games like that. You don't want the
and that will mean that you increase the size of your deck, right? If you are putting copies of the more copies of the card in there, right? You are increasing your deck size, unless I am completely misunderstanding the stuff. But I prefer the other system, you know, the one he explained first, when you draw your 5 cards, you play, and the upgraded card goes into the discard pile, and then you shuffle the discard pile into your deck. I prefer that one. Of course, again, we don't know exactly how it will work, but I like that more than this one he's explaining right now.
Play to feel like, oh my god, he just keeps top decking the cards he just upgraded, which is probably why they have that cycle system in SoulForge. So yes, you can see there's a lot of room for innovation or design space in this system. There's a lot of different things you can do with it. So
and yes, that scenario he just explained will feel really bad. As you guys know, your boy doesn't have the best of lucks. So my opponent will be high rolling all the time, and I would never high roll. So that will be stupid for me, brother.
It is difficult to say exactly how this badge system will work in DC Dual Force, but we do know it's very likely that when you play a card, it is upgraded. So to get access to a gold version of the card, you're going to need to play the silver version of a card. And to get access to a silver version of a card, you're going to have to play the bronze.
Yo, como my dude, how you doing, brother? How you doing, bro? Brother, you have seen me high roll, but what? 1 time out of 1,000, something like that, brother.
Version of a card. You can see why I avoided this topic for so long, huh? There's a lot of detail in here, and there's a lot of room for error, and it was an editing nightmare, so I would very much appreciate a like. Keep being awesome, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Yo, Willow, again, brother, good video. Thanks for explaining this, because I was worried that this bullshit was some pay-to-win stuff, and it isn't. It is something inside of the game, and that is cool. I thought it was an operating system outside of the gameplay, you know. It is cool to know this, and again, all your videos recently about DC Dual Force have been great, and you are putting a lot of effort into them. In fact, this thing surprised me. You have like a mini gaming here. I don't know if this is tabletop games, but whatever application you use, this is cool. So yes, brother, thanks for the video, my dude.